Welcome to Focus on Health, a series of educational programs highlighting current health issues sponsored by the School of Nursing at Salisbury University. I'm Dr. Mary DiBartolo, Professor of Nursing and host of the program. We are here with Karla Beardsley, the Nutrition Program Director at MAC Incorporated, Area Agency on Aging in Salisbury, Maryland, in this wonderful kitchen. And today we're going to focus on cooking with rotisserie chicken. And I know one of the first things you want to do is talk about all the things we should know about the various ways we can buy chicken broth and chicken soup and so forth, because chicken is just such a fan favorite in terms of soup and salads and all the things we can do with it.
It is, and it also has almost a medicinal feel to it. The old-fashioned chicken noodle soup that your grandmother gave you when you were sick, or your parents, and it's that feeling of warmth. And again, why do we give people chicken noodle soup when they're sick? One of the reasons is because the high fluid actually helps to make the body's fluids drain out. So say you have a cold and you drink this hot soup, it's going to actually help you to remove some of your congestion. It also helps with your gut. Some of the properties of the chicken broth actually help to heal the lining of the gut. So that's another good property. We know that chicken is high in potassium, so that potassium helps to get the electrolytes back in balance. And when we match it with some sodium that's put in the soup, that makes a good electrolyte balance. So the fluid and all of the minerals and vitamins from the chicken that go in the soup are really healthy. And now we have a new trend too, where you're actually thinking about putting the bones in the stock.
Yes, bone broth. You hear a lot about it now. You can even buy it at the store, as you're going to show us.
Right. So bone broth is sold in the stores. It's high in protein. The bones have been cooked for maybe 8 to 12 hours with herbs and vegetables in the liquid. And also they add a little bit of white vinegar, so that helps to break those bones down, and the calcium and the zinc leach out of the bones. But it takes about 8 hours, so we recommend making bone broth in a crock pot.
And so the bone broth also, you say, is high in collagen too?
Collagen. So yes, collagen, and basically what's coming out of the bones is called gelatin. And when the human body gets this gelatin, we can convert it to collagen, which helps to keep our joints healthy. So it doesn't really repair the joints, but it keeps them healthy.
Well, very good. What do you want to show us first?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to show you the variety of things you can buy in the store for our chicken soup. And of course, we have our old-fashioned chicken broth, Campbell's chicken broth. This is a little pricey. This is over $2 for 1 can. So it's concentrated, but it goes pretty far. Another favorite is chicken noodle soup. And the good thing about these products, Mary, is the first ingredient is chicken stock, which is what we're looking for instead of chicken flavoring. There's also the box products that stay on your shelf, so when you are sick, but again, they're made with flavoring, and they're very, very high in salt. The whole package, you could cut the package sodium by just using half of the package. Again, that's quick and easy. Many people like the ramen noodle chicken noodles soup idea too. Keep in mind that these are made with palm oil, so they're high in saturated fat. And
they don't seem as healthy.
No,
they seem like a quick fix.
Right, they're very cheap.
You know, college students use them.
But they do have that saturated fat in there.
Yes.
We also know that you can buy what's attractive is what we call low sodium chicken broth in the form of a granule. The problem with this is that the first ingredient is sugar. Then potassium chloride, which is a salty tasting component, but it has monosodium glutamate in it. So there again, people sometimes have allergic reactions to that by getting headaches.
Because the MSG, well that's sodium, isn't it?
Right, MSG is another form of sodium.
And I guess that's still a little bit better alternative to the bouillon cubes, you say?
Right, bouillon cubes, the first ingredient is usually salt. They have chicken flavor, usually, and then they have other flavoring components in there. So in place of bouillon, there is on the top shelf what's called better than bouillon. And if we look on the label here, the first ingredient is going to be roasted chicken, which is actually the essence from the chicken. And then of course they put salt in here. You can make this low sodium. Basically 1 teaspoon is equal to 1 cube, but you could use just a smaller amount, maybe a half a teaspoon.
Right.
And that would
still get the flavor,
right,
probably.
That would give you the flavor.
Yeah.
And for the convenience of just opening a box, this is 4 cups of broth, and it's a lower sodium broth. And how they made this, they boiled down herbs and parts of the chicken, but not the bones. So they did not use bones when they made this. And here's another product. This is actually called chicken stock. So again, they put vegetables in here, they put the meat in here and the chicken, and then they drained it off. So we have the broth.
So is that the difference between a stock and a broth, is they use vegetables to make it more hearty?
Right, and they cook it longer. So basically, we also have what we call the bone broth, and the bones are used when you make this, and it's cooked for a very long time. This is similar, this is what it looks like. You can see when you cook down bones that it has a gelatinous look. There's a little bit of fat on the top. And this was cooked down, a rotisserie chicken was cooked down to make this. So again, keeping it in a jar, we can use this later, but we don't want to freeze it in the jar. You need to put it in something plastic. And then that will be safe in your refrigerator.
Yeah, how long is it good in the refrigerator once you make it? Can you put it in the fridge for a few days?
Right. We recommend keeping products like this for about 5 days in the refrigerator. And
or if you freeze it, it'll last a lot longer.
Yes.
Okay, very good. It looks delicious. It looks like it has a lot of substance to it with the gelatin.
Yes. So starting with a broth is where most soups start. And for the most part, one of the recipes just talk about adding vegetables to the soup. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to start with 8 cups, and that was where I used 8 cups of fluid, 2 of these broths. And I have it sitting over here on this stove here, and it's hot. So I turned on the burner earlier, and I'm going to turn it up a little bit more, and you can smell it, right?
Yes, smells delicious.
Smells delicious. So I have chopped up already in bite-sized pieces what we would call my favorite vegetables. So I have carrots, and I have white potatoes in there with the skins on, and on the bottom I have celery. So the reason I do it like this is because I want to make sure that my soup doesn't grow too big with vegetables, because I do want some broth. And if I don't measure the vegetables, then I get carried away and put too many in. So it's mostly
you need to
vegetables.
have some of the broth and the steam and the herbs that come from it. Yeah.
So putting all these in, they all take about the same time to cook. And so that's going to, basically in 20 minutes, all these vegetables will be soft and not mushy. So I can put these all in here at one time. So in other words, when you think about it, I have 8 cups of fluid and 4 cups of vegetables. So the starch in this soup, Mary, is going to be those potatoes. And so they're going to come to a roaring boil and softly cook. And meanwhile, we can see that we have all these good nutrients in there, as well as the flavorings. So instead of sauteing on top of the stove, I have roasted these onions in the oven. Basically, it's a very simple process. You chop them up, put them on the pan, spray a little olive oil, spray on top, and then we can put them in. I cook a lot at one time, so that basically what's going to happen is I can use them later. And I do the same thing with garlic. And instead of peeling each one of these garlics, I like to roast the whole clove. I cut the top off, and then these just break apart very easily, and I can put these in for flavor, and they just pop apart. So it helps because it's sometimes when you have to chop and chop, this is so much easier than if I were to have to put all of these in.
If you didn't want the whole clove, could you put them through a garlic press?
You could.
Mince them that way?
That's right. Okay, so this is gonna cook nicely, Mary, for for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have our soup.
And all the flavors have cooked through in just 20 minutes.
Right, 20 minutes. And so we'll let that sit there. Now, while that's cooking, I'd like to show you how to work with a rotisserie chicken.
Let's do it.
So that we can add the chicken meat there. That's the only thing missing. Okay.
So while the chicken broth and vegetables are cooking, we are going to work on the rotisserie chicken so that we can get the meat to add to the soup.
That's right. So nothing better than adding fresh meat. Of course, we can always add canned chicken to the soup, but today we're going to work with this rotisserie chicken. Keep in mind that I bought this and it was hot. It was very, very hot when I bought it. You want to look for the hottest rotisserie chickens in that grocery store. And sometimes you think, whoa, it's going to be hard to carry that home, but they should put it in a plastic bag for you. But the hotter the better, because we don't want our chicken to be warm. Warm is not healthy. That's when the bacteria start growing. Actually, when I picked up this chicken, it was in a hot light, and it had been there, and I checked on the label. When we opened it, there was a time stamped on there when they took it out of the oven. They have 2 hours within that period to sell that chicken. If they don't sell the chicken, they pull them out and they chill them down for 4 hours, and then they sell them to us cold. So that's how they keep their chicken safe, and you can actually find cold rotisserie chicken in the area of the grocery store that sells more convenience items.
Or I imagine they can use the meat to make their fresh salads and things too, so it doesn't go to waste, I imagine. As long as it's safe. And I know you brought a graphic you want to show our viewers.
Right, so and to keep in mind that warmness is not good. Foods that are safe are generally under 40 degrees or above 140 degrees. And typically, too, we want to raise the chicken temperature when it's cooked to 165 to kill that bacteria. So as you see here, once it goes up that high, the salmonella and the campylobacter have been killed. And the only thing that's added new would be somebody's hands or some other exposure. So again, that warm temperature, we can only leave food in there for at the most 4 hours, and then we have to throw it away.
So I guess we want to tell our viewers that if you buy a rotisserie chicken, besides checking the time stamp on it, when you bring it home, it is not smart to let it just sit on the counter.
You have 2 hours. In that period, you have to either eat it or refrigerate it. And again, if you wanted to warm up the chicken, this does not go in the oven. You have to put this only in a microwave. It's a one-time use in the microwave, and this cannot go in the microwave. So you can leave it a little bit atop, but I would say it's a very thin plastic, and this is safe in the microwave. However, just one time and then throw it away.
So when you say 2 hours, you're meaning from the time you take it from the hot lamp?
Yes.
Okay. So you can't bring it home and just let it sit there because we don't want to chill it and then rewarm it and that kind of thing. So better be safe and just put it in the fridge if you're not going to use it right away.
That's right. So when we're cutting up the chicken, I like to wear gloves just simply because I wash my hands. However, this will just prevent my germs from getting on the chicken. These are kitchen gloves that one can buy in most grocery stores. They fit very tightly, and so that also prevents the knife from slipping and cutting me. So I'm going to put the chicken there. Mary, look, we have all kinds of juice. Okay, that's going to go.
That's flavorful stuff, isn't it?
We are going to make more bone broth, so I'm going to put all of that essence in the pot here. Okay, and we'll just set that over here. All right, so first, what we're going to do is I like to use 2 knives. I'm going to cut that chicken down the middle. Okay. And you can use a small knife or a big knife and then just break it apart, the pieces we're going to use. And then we're going to also take off the legs. So that's cutting it right here in the joint. And so we're going to put that here for a minute, and we got all this nice meat here on this breast piece. So it's actually 4/4 in a chicken. And all I'm going to do is take all this breast meat off, any of the bones or the parts that, like the skin, that we don't want to eat. Of course, some people like to eat that skin. It's absolutely delicious and full of nutrients, but this is just the breast of the chicken. And that's what we're going to make chicken salad out of. Okay, so I'm going to take the other breast and do the same thing. Get that skin and pull it off and put it in our soup pot. All right. And we've got some more meat here. We'll just chunk that off there. All right, so now this is bones again. That goes in this bone box. There's a little chunk of meat there. That's good. Okay, that's almost dark meat. So as you're pulling the whole chicken apart, you can take the meat off. This is the wing, and again, there's some skin, but we'll put that in that part there. The bone part.
You were at the bone.
Yeah, the bone is coming off. So we're just going to slide that meat off there, put the bone back in. All right. There's a string that holds the legs there. We don't want to eat that. But this is good flavor, bone, bone. All right, here's some more meat. So all we have to do is slide that skin off, put that in the bone part, and our meat goes over here. All right, so half chicken done. Here's some more meat. Basically put that in our soup pot for meat and skin there. We have to separate. This is a bone. He goes there, a bone. So again, all of the parts of the chicken that you don't want to eat the meat apart can actually go into our soup pot. This is a leg, and as you know, it's a drumstick and a thigh. So what we're going to do is slide all that skin off again for the soup pot. Okay. And the meat will go in our today's soup. All right. And the bones go back into the soup pot. All right. These are bones here and skin. That will be trash. This wing doesn't have much meat on it.
No,
so
it doesn't.
he's going in the soup pot.
Okay.
All right. So we have more meat.
Okay.
More meat. Meat. Okay. All right. So
You're
then,
quite efficient at this.
well, when you work in a kitchen, sometimes you have to go fast because we have a lot of people to feed. All right. So all of these bones and everything that we don't want to eat get to go in the soup pot for bone broth. So then we'll move. So basically we have pieces of chicken. Oh, we forgot this one. Let's do him too. We take the skin off, back in the pot. More meat. Get all those bones out of there.
When you showed us this bone broth earlier and you said there was some fat at the top, that comes from the skin, I guess?
That comes from the skin, right. And so you can just remove that with a spoon. But again, chicken fat is a saturated fat, just like any animal fat, and it does make our cholesterol go up. There's some skin. All right. And then we want to get all that meat off that chicken bone, and the rest goes in the soup pot. Okay. So most of these pieces here are small enough, Mary, that we could actually just put in our soup pot, or they can break them apart like this. So as you see, we're having a dark meat are going to go in today's soup. Okay, so we check through to make sure we have all the bones out, break it up a little bit more, and shred it that way. One could also chop it and make it into small pieces if you like the smaller pieces. Okay.
Okay. So you're saving this for the chicken salad.
Right. We're going to save the
breast meat, and then this will go into the chicken soup.
Right. So let's work with that. I'm going to take my gloves off, and we will do that. So I'm going to walk over here. One of the most important things is that I turn this pot down now because I don't want the chicken to toughen up.
Because it's already cooked.
It's already cooked, and if I put it in there and bring it to a boil, that chicken can get really tough. So all of these flavorful pieces of chicken are just going to sit in here. The potatoes are done, the celery is done, and so we'll basically have our chicken in here, and we'll put this over here for the next thing we make. We can also add, at this time, we're just going to simmer it on low. We can add some more seasonings, and this is when you might add your parsley. Parsley can be added last. Sometimes it gets black if you leave it in too long. So we're just going to take our soup spoon here and just add a little teaspoon or so of parsley. That'll add flavor as well.
And you can use fresh parsley,
correct? You can add fresh parsley. I didn't have any this morning, so and we can also...
Well, most everyone has parsley in their cabinet. Yep.
Exactly. Anytime we add herbs to our food, it's going to make it healthier. We're also, because of the color, we're going to add some spinach. And this is just baby spinach. You can add it in the raw form. And
so is that about 2 cups? Or?
It's basically 2 cups of spinach, and it's going to cook down to nothing. So fresh spinach sometimes is fun to work with because it does cook so easily in the hot soups. So the colors in here are going to be very orange as well as green. But
could you use kale as a substitute for
kale
the
as well?
That cooks down nicely in soup.
It does. Some have a more bitter taste, but kale or spinach, either one will work.
So we ready to give this a try?
Mary, it's been 20 minutes. Everything looks done. We've tested the vegetables and they're nice and soft. So let's scoop up something and try it.
Okay. Now those potatoes look like they're the small baby potatoes.
They are.
But you can use regular potatoes that you dice.
Something that whatever you have in your house, it doesn't require a lot. Basically what we are making here is, actually Mary, can you get that ladle?
Sure.
We are gonna not missing.
Because I want to try some of that
We're
broth.
missing the juice.
Yeah.
Yes. So here we get some juice on that. Okay. So remind yourself that we have half vegetables and half broth. So we want to get the benefit of the fluid with the vegetables and all the nutrients that cook into it. So
very good. Very
Carrots
good.
done well enough?
Oh yeah, excellent.
Yeah. Carrots are soft, and
the parsley gives it a nice flavor.
Parsley, spinach gives it color, but don't really taste the spinach. But
I can taste a little bit of the roasted onions and garlic as well.
Yes.
Remind us again how to roast that garlic up when you take the whole bulb.
That's something I just read about. You basically cut the top off, and then you put almost like a spoonful of oil on it. You're going to set it in maybe some tin foil, and then just roll it up and put it in the oven at about 350 for about 20 minutes. And then
so you wrap it up in the foil then after you put the oil on it?
Yep. And then they just fall right apart. And we can use them, and they're roasted, they're tasty. If you like to just eat garlic, that's a good way to eat garlic too.
I think I have one here.
Yes,
it's delicious.
So it's delicious. They're just like another vegetable. So they too are like the onion, the way they grow. So the medicine effects are similar to the onion in that they're good for preventing inflammation. So let's put this pot away, Mary. And we're going to make our own bone broth next.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right.
So earlier, Karla, we took all the bones and skin and some scrap things from the rotisserie chicken and put it in this pot so that you are going to now show us how to make bone broth.
Right. So why throw all this good nutrition away and the good foods? Again, bone broth is where we're cooking bones, but it can also be the leftovers of anything that's in the kitchen in form of the vegetable family. So I'm going to add leftover, we have here celery chunks from the celery tops, onions, and I also have some big pieces of carrot. Know that you don't have to cut them up small or anything. These are basically going to be used for flavoring, and that carrot will sweeten the taste of the soup and the onions we added.
And all of that is strained out so that you end up with actual just broth.
Right, and that's what we want.
Okay.
At this time, you can also add seasoning. Some people like garlic, some people like onion. It's a good time to use what we call the powders because it's a lot of work to get all of them. When we were talking about the garlic, you could even put these garlics in there and that will flavor the soup. It's an intense form of flavor, so it goes a long way and they soften up. And again, we're not going to be eating the actual food, only the fluids and the nutrients that come out.
So you can add some parsley, say, from your cabinet.
You can add parsley from your garden, from your, it depends on if you do have a garden, especially in the winter, sometimes parsley doesn't make it, but for the most part, the greener the vegetables you add, the more green the broth will be. It's not the typical yellow, is it? That your
no, it's
typical
not.
Chicken broth we think it is, and that's because they add food coloring. The other important thing, as we mentioned earlier too, is that you do want to put half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of white vinegar into that pot, because that again is going to allow the nutrients to leach out of those bones. So just a little bit, you won't even taste it in there.
So you used a capful.
A capful. That's about a teaspoon. So here again is our fluids. We're going to add, again, this is 4 cups that we added. We're going to add 8 cups of water, and that will cook down to 4 cups of bone broth.
So it reduces essentially by half.
However, remind yourself that it's going to take about 8 to 12 hours for this.
Just a slow simmer on the stove?
Slow simmer, not boiling. That's why a crock pot really works well. When we look at what it looks like, it's everything together. And we can season according to our taste, or whatever vegetables you have. If you have leftover vegetables, Mary, you can put that in here too, as long as they're not bad.
Now, a question I have is, the bone broth that you can buy in the box works well also?
Yes. Bone broth is just as nutritious. If you like that, keep in mind that when you pour the bone broth out, it will be like a gelatin. And that's that collagen that you're experiencing. So that's the nutrition that we want to help our joints.
And how can you use that bone broth? You can use it in soups, and how else?
Right. Bone broth, even though it is like a gelatin, it actually, when you heat it up, will be just like the broth, the chicken broth. And so you can use it for soup bases, you can put it in vegetables, you can actually put it with casseroles. So there's a million uses for bone broth besides just drinking it.
And some people will just drink it?
Just drink it like coffee, yes. It's a very satisfying, soothing drink, and especially since it's hot, it helps our nasal fluids to flow. Okay, so Mary, again, the idea of using bone broth is good for us because it has leached, or we say leached, but it has all the nutrients from the bones, the calcium that we need, and it has zinc, the minerals that sometimes we don't get from our foods. We can get that in the juice from the chickens. It also has the flavoring, the natural flavoring from the chicken. But when we look at getting the gelatin we eat the gelatin and it becomes helpful to our collagen, which is between our joints. And so it fortifies them. Doesn't necessarily replace them, but it is helpful in that respect.
So it's good for older adults,
right.
You know, aging with arthritis and so forth. And of course, the key thing you have to add to leach those nutrients out would be that small amount of vinegar.
Some type of acid. It could be lemon juice, it could be, but the white vinegar actually works the best, just a small amount.
Right, so it doesn't actually flavor it.
No.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let's take that to the stove.
Let's take it to the stove.
So now we're on to the third item that we're reaping from the one rotisserie chicken. We're going to be making turmeric chicken salad.
Turmeric chicken salad, right. So remember we took that breast. There was actually 2 breasts, and so that's about 1 pound. And so what we're going to do with that chicken breast is make a salad dressing to cover it and to moisten it. But we're going to make a healthy salad dressing that has some ingredients that you might not have tasted before. One of those ingredients is turmeric. And turmeric is wonderful for helping to reduce inflammation. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of turmeric. That's a half teaspoon. And you see how pretty yellow it is. We're going to just gently take out a little bit here, and we're going to use this spoon to level it. Don't want to get too much. If it's a new spice and you haven't tasted it before, sometimes you might want to use less. So
how much mayonnaise is in that bowl?
So the mayonnaise was 1/4 of a cup of mayonnaise.
And then how much?
And 1 teaspoon of turmeric.
And that has so many health benefits.
Right.
There's all kinds of new research about the benefits of it.
Not that you want to take it and eat it, but turmeric can be a powerful spice. We're also going to add to that, because we're having more protein than fat, we're going to add basically 1/4 cup of yogurt. So
any kind of yogurt, plain yogurt, Greek yogurt?
This one happens to be Greek yogurt. So Greek yogurt, again, is very high in protein. It's thick. It has like a sour cream flavor. So, but it also doesn't have the vinegary flavor either. So it's equal parts mayonnaise and yogurt in this recipe. So we'll just set that there, and we'll put our yogurt away. So as you see, it was the Greek yogurt, and we'll just put the rest away. So we've got that stirred up. Now the recipe calls for garlic powder and onion powder. And the reason it's asking for that is because it will dissolve quickly in this salad dressing. Instead of using salt and so on, I'm going to put in this salt-free seasoning. And the first ingredient is garlic granules. So again, garlic granules are different than actually the powder. They have a little bit of crunch, but more flavor. And then there's a mixture of other seasonings in here. I'm only adding 1/4 of a teaspoon.
Okay.
And
you can always add more.
That's right. You can always add more, so it has some coloring. And in addition to that, we're going to add a little crunch, and our onion flavor, instead of coming from powder, is going to come from green onions. Whoop.
So how many green onions are there? A couple?
There's 4 green onions in this recipe, okay? And then there's 1 stalk of celery, and that's going to just add crunch too. Okay. So we stir up our salad dressing, and
what about lemon juice?
That's going to go too.
We have the ever popular plastic lemon.
Right.
Lemon
if
juice.
You don't, they stay for a long time on the shelf, and
But of course you can use fresh lemon.
You can use fresh lemon. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure a whole lemon is what we want, the juice from a whole lemon. But we're basically just going to use 1/4 of a cup of this lemon juice. We squeeze it out into the measuring cup here. When we add the juice, this also is a way to let our salad dressing go a little farther. So we have 1/4 of a cup. We add that to the recipe. It smells lemony.
It does. I love lemon in just about anything.
Of course, the fresh lemon would definitely have a more fresher taste. But okay, there we go. It's nice and runny, but it has all the herbs and spices in there. So now we're going to pour this over our chicken that we chopped up bite-size. And keep in mind that a rotisserie chicken is a little bit saltier than a regular baking chicken or something that you would cook. And this is just because of the processing of that rotisserie chicken. So keep in mind that this chicken breast is higher in salt than just a regular frozen or fresh chicken breast that you would use. So that's one of the reasons why we don't need to add any salt to this. And it has its own saltiness, and so as you see, what we're doing is mixing all those flavors around in there. See how nice and yellow it is?
Mm-hmm. Looks delicious.
Has a lot of color. So again, you can put other vegetables in here if you want more crunch, but that just moistens it up. It's ready to taste, Mary.
All right, let's try some.
So how would you eat chicken salad, Mary?
I usually eat it as a sandwich, or sometimes I'll have it with crackers if I don't feel like eating a lot of bread.
Right. It's one of the most popular things our seniors eat here at the Senior Center. And again, because our chicken has only been cooked once, it's very tender.
It's very good. It's got a tangy flavor to it, and the crunch with the onions.
And it's totally different looking than anything you've ever had.
I know one of the hot things you see in more gourmet style chicken salad is grapes. You'll see grapes in there, or walnuts. There's all kinds of things you can do with chicken salad.
You could put nuts in there, like you said, walnuts, pecans. You could put raisins. You could put grapes, like you mentioned, or craisins. There's a lot of things you can add to the salad, and still, there's enough servings here for about 6 people. So again, there's more than you needed. We probably could have froze one of those chicken breasts for later and just used one for this recipe.
And you can't even taste the turmeric.
No, you can't.
But it's just so healthy. It's
so healthy and pretty.
Yep.
So we've done 3 things with that chicken, didn't we, Mary?
Yes, we did. One rotisserie chicken made
One rotisserie
chicken soup, bone broth to use for later, and then of course a nice bowl of chicken salad.
So you get a lot from the rotisserie chicken. The main thing is to make sure that you're working with safe chicken, keeping in mind that 2-hour window when you get home with that chicken. So remind yourself, Mary, that when you're shopping, the best time to buy that chicken is before your dinner meal, because they pop those chickens out around 4 o'clock from their ovens. And so the selling opportunity is from 4 o'clock to 6.
That's when people get off of work.
That's right.
I don't feel like cooking tonight. I'm just going to pick up a chicken.
So the sooner you can get the chicken and get it into your house, the safer that little chicken will be.
Well, Karla, thank you so much for 3 wonderful recipes and all the invaluable information about chicken safety and so forth. I know I'm going to try all these 3 myself and see how bone broth goes. I think I might try the box first, though.
Okay.
But it certainly looks delicious to make it yourself. Once you get all the ingredients in that pot, it just boils for several hours, and then you have a nice jar of bone broth.
Chicken is very versatile and very good for us, so I hope we can take advantage of the consumers that like to buy rotisserie chicken.
Well, especially here on the Eastern Shore, you kind of have to like chicken. So, well, thank you again, and thank you for this edition of Focus on Health, Cooking for Health, here on PAC 14.